1. Breaking Bad. Walter White was a teacher, a father, a man the world overlooked, until he chose power over peace. Breaking Bad is not a story about cooking meth. It is a story about transformation, about what happens when a man convinces himself that the ends justify the means. Walter didn't break bad overnight. He justified every step, every lie, every murder. He believed he was doing it for his family, but in truth, he was feeding his own ego. This series teaches you that pride is a poison, that control is an illusion, that the man you become in pursuit of power may be the man you never wanted to be. Every decision has a cost, and some costs can never be repaid. 2. Peaky Blinders. Thomas Shelby is a strategist, a soldier, and a survivor. Peaky Blinders is a masterclass in calculated ambition. Tommy doesn't act on impulse. He plans, he waits, he strikes. But beneath the sharp suits and cold stare is a man haunted by war, by loss, by the weight of leadership. This series shows you that power is not given, it's taken. But it also shows you the loneliness that comes with command, the burden of always being 3 steps ahead, the price of never letting anyone see your weakness. Tommy Shelby is brilliant, but he is also broken. And that is the lesson. You can rise to the top and still lose yourself. Ambition without balance is just another form of self-destruction. 3. The Sopranos. Tony Soprano is the embodiment of contradiction, a mob boss with panic attacks, a killer who loves his family. The Sopranos explores the duality of man, the gap between who we are and who we pretend to be. Tony wants respect, loyalty, love, but he takes shortcuts. He uses violence to solve problems. He lies to those closest to him. And yet he sits in therapy, trying to understand why he feels empty. This series forces you to confront uncomfortable truths, that success without integrity is hollow, that you cannot demand loyalty if you don't offer it in return, that men are not immune to their own emotions, no matter how hard they try to bury them. Tony's tragedy is that he knows what's wrong, but he won't change. Don't be that man. 4. Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is a brutal education in power, betrayal, and consequence. In Westeros, honor gets you killed. Mercy is exploited. Trust is a weapon used against you. Ned Stark was honorable, and he lost his head. Robb Stark was noble, and he was slaughtered at a wedding. But then there is Tyrion Lannister, who survived not through strength, but through intelligence. Jon Snow, who led not through fear, but through sacrifice. This series teaches you that the world is not fair, that doing the right thing doesn't guarantee victory. But it also teaches you that integrity, even in a corrupt world, is what defines legacy. Power is temporary. Character is permanent. The throne was never the point. The man sitting on it was. 5. Vikings. Ragnar Lothbrok was a farmer who became a legend. Vikings is the story of a man driven by curiosity, ambition, and the refusal to accept limitations. Ragnar didn't wait for permission. He built ships. He explored new lands. He challenged kings. But his rise came at a cost. His sons grew ambitious. His wife grew distant. His enemies multiplied. This series teaches you that greatness requires risk, that comfort is the enemy of progress, that a man who stops evolving becomes irrelevant. Ragnar's downfall was not his ambition, it was his inability to adapt when the world around him changed. The lesson is clear. Never stop learning, never stop questioning, and never let success make you complacent. 6. The Wire. The Wire is not entertainment, it is education. It exposes the systems that trap men, poverty, politics, corruption, bureaucracy. It shows you that the world is not black and white, that good cops can be ineffective, that bad men can have understandable motives. Omar Little is a criminal, but he lives by a code. McNulty is a detective, but he's a drunk and a liar. This series teaches you that institutions fail people, that hard work doesn't always lead to justice, that the game is rigged. But you still have to decide how you'll play it. The Wire forces you to think critically, to see the world as it is, not as you wish it were, and to understand that real change requires patience, discipline, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. 7. Mad Men. Don Draper is a man who built himself from nothing. He is brilliant, charismatic, and successful. He is also a liar. Mad Men is a study in identity and self-deception. Don ran from his past, reinvented himself, and climbed to the top. But no matter how high he rose, he couldn't outrun his own emptiness. This series teaches you that external success does not equal internal peace, that you can have money, power, and admiration and still feel lost, that the mask you wear to impress the world eventually becomes a prison. Don's tragedy is that he never learned to be honest with himself. The lesson is simple. Build your life on truth, not performance, not approval. Truth. 8. Narcos. Pablo Escobar was the richest criminal in history, and he died alone on a rooftop, hunted like an animal. Narcos is a lesson in the limits of power. Pablo had billions, armies, politicians in his pocket, but none of it saved him. Why? Because power built on violence and fear is unstable. It invites war. It breeds enemies. It isolates you. This series shows you that ambition without ethics is a death sentence, that wealth means nothing if you can't walk freely, that loyalty bought with fear disappears the moment fear does. Pablo's empire crumbled because he believed he was untouchable. The lesson is clear. Real power is not about domination. It's about sustainability. It's about building something that lasts without burning the world around you. 9. True Detective. Season 1. Rust Cole is a philosopher in a detective's body. True Detective is not just about solving a murder. It's about confronting darkness. The darkness in the world and the darkness within yourself. Rust has seen too much. He's lost too much. He believes life is meaningless. But still, he hunts evil. Still, he fights. Marty Hart, his partner, is the opposite. Family man, optimist, flawed. Together, they represent the duality of masculinity, the thinker and the doer, the cynic and the believer. This series teaches you that meaning is not given, it's created. That despair is a choice, not a conclusion. That even when the world seems irredeemable, you still have the power to act. Rust's final revelation is that even in the darkness, light is winning. You just have to look for it. 10. Ozark. Marty Bird is not a gangster. He's an accountant, a family man, a problem solver, and yet he ends up laundering money for a cartel, moving bodies, and making impossible choices. Ozark teaches you that survival requires adaptation. Marty doesn't have muscle. He doesn't have a criminal mind. What he has is discipline, intelligence, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. This series shows you that masculinity is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, calculated, strategic. It also shows you that trying to protect your family can sometimes put them in more danger. That control is fragile. That one wrong move can destroy everything. Marty's strength is his mind, but his weakness is his belief that he can outsmart consequence. The lesson is clear. You can't think your way out of every problem. Some debts must be paid. 11. Sons of Anarchy. Jax Teller was born into a brotherhood, a legacy of motorcycles, violence, and loyalty. Sons of Anarchy is about what happens when the code you were raised on no longer makes sense. Jax wanted out. He wanted something better for his family. But the deeper he tried to escape, the more trapped he became. This series teaches you that loyalty can become a cage. That tradition, without questioning, leads to self-destruction. That sometimes the family you're born into is the thing holding you back. Jax's tragedy is that he saw the truth too late. He knew the club was poison, but he couldn't let go. The lesson is this: you are not obligated to follow the path laid out for you. Legacy is not destiny. You have the right to choose your own road. 12. Boardwalk Empire. Nucky Thompson is a politician, a gangster, and a man caught between two worlds. Boardwalk Empire explores the corruption of power during Prohibition, a time when morality was negotiable and survival required compromise. Nucky is not a thug. He's educated, charming, strategic, but he's also ruthless. This series teaches you that the line between legitimate and criminal is thinner than you think, that politics and crime often wear the same face, that maintaining power requires sacrifice of relationships, of principles, of innocence. Nucky's downfall is his inability to trust. He manipulates everyone, and in the end, no one stands beside him. The lesson is simple. Power without loyalty is isolation, and isolation is the beginning of the end. 13. Better Call Saul. Jimmy McGill is a good man trying to be legitimate, but the world keeps pushing him toward shortcuts. Better Call Saul is a tragedy about identity, about how a man becomes the person everyone expects him to be, even when he wanted to be something else. Jimmy is talented, hard-working, charismatic, but he's not respected. Not by his brother, not by the law. So he becomes Saul Goodman, the conman, the hustler, the criminal lawyer. This series teaches you that respect cannot be demanded or faked, that reputation is built through consistency, not flash, that the shortcuts you take eventually define you. Jimmy's tragedy is that he was capable of greatness, but he chose the easier path. And once you start compromising, it becomes harder to stop. The lesson is this: who you are is a choice. Make it deliberately. 14. Rome. Rome is a lesson in ambition, power, and the cost of empire. It follows Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, and two soldiers, Lucius Vorenus and Titus Pullo, as they navigate the collapse of the Roman Republic. Caesar is brilliant, ruthless, and uncompromising. Vorenus is honorable but rigid. Pullo is chaotic but loyal. This series teaches you that history is shaped by individuals, that leadership requires both vision and violence, that honor without pragmatism is a liability, that loyalty, even when misplaced, is a form of strength. Rome fell not because of weakness, but because ambition turned inward, because men who should have been allies became enemies. The lesson is clear. Unity is fragile. Ego is dangerous. And empires, no matter how powerful, are built by men and can be destroyed by them. 15. Band of Brothers. Band of Brothers is not fiction. It is history. It follows Easy Company, a group of paratroopers during World War II. These men were not superheroes. They were farmers, factory workers, students. They were ordinary men thrust into extraordinary circumstances, and they endured. This series teaches you that courage is not the absence of fear, it's action in spite of it. That leadership is earned, not given. That brotherhood is forged in hardship. That sacrifice is the highest form of service. These men jumped into Nazi-occupied Europe, knowing they might not come home. And they did it because something bigger than themselves demanded it. The lesson is timeless. Comfort does not build character. Adversity does. And the men who endure the worst often become the best. 16. Spartacus. Spartacus was a slave who became a legend. Spartacus is a story of rebellion, vengeance, and the refusal to accept oppression. Spartacus didn't ask for freedom. He took it. With blood, with strategy, with an unbreakable will. This series teaches you that dignity cannot be taken from you unless you surrender it. That freedom is worth dying for. That leadership is not about titles. It's about inspiring others to believe in something greater. Spartacus led slaves against the most powerful empire in the world. He knew he couldn't win, but he fought anyway. Because some battles are worth fighting, even if victory is impossible. The lesson is this: you are not defined by your circumstances. You are defined by how you respond to them. And sometimes defiance is the only honorable choice. 17. Dexter. Dexter Morgan is a serial killer with a code. He only kills other killers. Dexter explores the psychology of control, morality, and identity. Dexter was taught to channel his darkness into something productive. But the question haunts him: can a monster pretend to be human long enough to become one? This series teaches you that everyone wears a mask, that discipline can shape even the most destructive urges, that morality is not black and white. It's a choice made in the gray. Dexter's tragedy is that he believed he was incapable of love, and when he finally opened himself to it, it destroyed the people around him. The lesson is clear. Suppression is not the same as healing. You cannot outrun what you are, but you can choose what you become. 18. House of Cards. Frank Underwood is a man who understands one thing: power. House of Cards is a ruthless examination of ambition without conscience. Frank climbs the political ladder by any means necessary. Manipulation, blackmail, murder. He is brilliant, charismatic, and utterly without remorse. This series teaches you that power is not given to the virtuous. It's taken by the willing. That politics is theater, and the best actors win. But it also shows you the emptiness of power for power's sake. Frank gets everything he wanted, and it means nothing. Because power without purpose is a hollow throne. The lesson is this: ambition is not inherently evil, but ambition without values is. Know why you're climbing, because the top is lonelier than you think. 19. Money Heist. The professor is not a criminal. He's a strategist. Money Heist is a story of precision, planning, and rebellion against a corrupt system. The professor doesn't rob for greed. He robs to make a statement, to expose hypocrisy, to level the playing field. This series teaches you that intelligence is the ultimate weapon, that preparation separates success from failure, that leadership is about trust, not control. The professor's team is flawed, emotional, chaotic, but he builds a family from strangers. He gives them purpose. He gives them belief. The lesson is this: great leaders don't demand loyalty. They inspire it. And the best plans are the ones that adapt when reality fights back. Discipline and flexibility are not opposites. They are partners. 20. Prison Break, Season 1. Michael Schofield is a genius, an engineer, a brother, and when his brother is sentenced to death for a crime he didn't commit, Michael does the impossible. He breaks him out of prison. Prison Break is a masterclass in planning, execution, and resolve. Michael doesn't have power. He doesn't have weapons. What he has is a blueprint tattooed on his body and the will to see it through. This series teaches you that loyalty is action, that love for family is not a weakness, it's a motivator, that intelligence without courage is useless. Michael risks everything, his freedom, his life, for someone else. Not because he had to, because he chose to. The lesson is clear. Commitment is what separates intention from action. You either do it or you don't. There is no in between.